This video introduces our Gyver controller analysis tool, which allows us to get to the bottom of many complex and very difficult to troubleshoot issues in an expedited way. And so as we go through the various modules, no doubt you'll see how this tool can help one to get to these fundamental issues. So let's start off by, I've already logged in, so looking at the main settings here. We can obviously start analysis, which means that we will take a configuration from a controller and allow this tool to take a look at it. We can also view all existing controllers that we have within the database. We also have these tools that are available to us, and we're going to be growing on these quite a bit in the near future, where if we're on a Meraki site, which is unable to produce names and access points as you're walking around using EchoHow, we can import directly from Meraki's dashboard into this tool, and then it will rewrite the EchoHow file to show the AP names as we're walking about. We can also do the exact same thing for Aruba. We can take information from an Aruba controller and then put that into the EchoHow file so we can get the names of the APs, what models they are, and anything else that we deem necessary. But what we're going to focus on is the start analysis. So to do that, when we click it, it brings up this option to import new controller. So we'd specify the partner, the client, and the site that we're working in, and we'd hit next. Now once we do that, it then asks us to import the controller configuration. Now this is typically one command that needs to be run, sometimes two or three, and in rare cases we need them to actually transfer it using TFTP. So what I'm trying to get at is it's usually a very simple thing to get from the client, and we'd upload that here. And it would just be a matter of simply dragging in that file that we've collected while on site, and just drag it right into this drag and drop spot. Now these are large files, so I'm not going to show it here just so that we're not waiting for it to happen. But as that uploads, it would give you a progress, and then eventually you would be able to click the next button. Now once you do that, once you click the next button, after some time, a few minutes usually, the whole controller is analyzed and anything that needs to be called out is brought to the forefront. Let's take a look at what that looks like now. So here's the controller that we just imported. You can see the information, the metadata that we specified are here, but in addition, we now see the controller name, when the actual export was performed on the controller, number of access points found, RF groups, and all sorts of additional data that is very useful for our troubleshooting. So these are all global settings that are shown here. As mentioned, there's a lot. It allows us to kind of view the controller as if we were sitting in front of it in a summarized fashion. But here's where things start getting interesting. In addition to what we can do, it is now identified numerous issues that it feels we need to be aware of. Now, this is at a tech level, a very technical, detailed level. So everything's going to be called out. It's going to be flagged. There's nothing that is junk per se, but instead it's calling it all out. In the future, we will be able to have an export feature that will surmise all this data into a much more reduced package. But for us as engineers, this is insanely useful. So as an example, first alert is that the data the controller export is greater than 2 weeks. So does that mean that we're working with old data? Possibly, right? And then we start getting into controller settings, or RF settings rather. So this is a global 802.11. We see the power assignment interval is 600 seconds, which is 10 minutes. This is typically too aggressive. So over 320 different events are being looked for, and we've tailored them. We've adjusted them for our situation for what we feel. You know, if you run this through other analysis tools, Cisco may not recommend turning off one of their features in a particular environment, but we will if it's appropriate for that environment. So as we go through here, we can see there's a number of settings. In fact, there are over 898 items. And that may seem very overwhelming, but I want to assure you that this controller was particularly messed up. Now, of course, what you can do is at the top of any of these boxes, you have an export all. which will allow you to export this to Excel. So you can filter very easily here. So if we wanted to specifically look at interference, right? We could type in interference for the label or choose it from the drop-down, and we can see all the APs that were called out in alarm state because they have 5 interferers, or we can actually sort on that, and we can see all the top interferers right here in a very controlled way. Now, that export that we've also done, we can open up Excel here, and this is the export that comes from that. And as you can see, everything that we saw in that table is now here, where we are able to filter based upon that. So we can come in here, I can choose to show all interferers, or labels rather, and right here, here's everything that was found with the source, whether it's the group or the access point or the radio in the access point, and things that are going on. Now, in this particular controller's case, a number of access points were actually not configured to connect to this controller. They were configured to connect to a different controller, but they turned on and only found this one. So this identifies the issue, it tells us what controller it was trying to connect to, and how to fix it. Again, that's why there's a lot in here. So moving past that, actually, let's do one more thing before we do that. Another piece that is very useful is once we've been on site, we now know the APs that we care about. Perhaps this controller is managing many locations. Well, we don't want the alarms for everything, right? Because we haven't visited those other locations. We don't know about those. Perhaps we're only getting paid to have our blinders on to look at one thing. So what we can do in that case is we can actually upload an EchoHow file right here, and that will bring up this window here that will allow you to import an EchoHow file. And then once you do that, once it's been imported, you can see that we can download a modified EchoHow file. More on that in a second. But also, we are now given the option to filter based upon the EchoHow import. So if we click this and we say anything that's placed in EchoHow we want to know about, by doing this, it cuts the number of items down substantially to the APs that we only care about. So this is a great way of kind of filtering what we're looking for. Now there are a number of other ways to filter by using this issues found table or the Excel file that comes out of it, and we'll also be doing that for the reporting. But let's talk about a few of these other tables as well. As we continue on, you'll notice that the WLAN's SSID table shows you all the SSIDs that are out there, the number of clients that are connected to each one, and you can click any of these links and it will give you much more detail about that particular SSID, including the raw information from the controller and the calculated values. In fact, you can do that anywhere there's a link. So if we move up to the issues found table and we click this particular AP, it'll give you all the details about that specific access point. Its uptime, what its model is, the image that's running on it. All of that is right there at our disposal. Now, in addition to WLAN's SSIDs, we also have all the physical access points. We can see basic data in here. And again, just because we imported that EchoHow file earlier, we can also click here and say placed. So any of them that are placed would be shown here. Or if they were just in the EchoHow file at all, we could choose that as well. I'm going to leave this on placed, and now you can see very quickly and easily which APs are which, what their admin state is. You can sort by all these columns very quickly and very easily, and identify core issues very easily. Now, continuing on, we can then go into the slots of each and every access point. So this will tell us things like BSSID, what clients are connected, what the weakest client is, what the strongest client is, the number of channel changes that have happened. So if I come to slot configuration and then sort by channel changes, you can see this one access point, or this one radio on this one access point, has had over 140 different channel changes. The one right below it, which seems quite close, right, has 136 and then 105. So is this something that we need to take a look at? Perhaps. And so these are all things that we can use to quickly get to the crux of the issue. Also, we can sort by operational state on the actual access points that are on site, which is very useful, the radio type, and we of course can filter by AP, so we can just see the 2 or 1 or 3 radios that would be in a particular access point. There's much, much more that we can do with this table. One thing we do want to call out is it does also show you who the closest access points are, and it will also show you the worst signal to noise ratios. So as an example, this particular AP, or rather this group, which has this RF profile and is running on this AP, so floor 42, AP23, we see that there is a very bad signal noise ratio in a particular case, or actually this is a strong one, excuse me. We can also see clients, the worst signal. So which AP here allows the worst possible signal? We have a client allowed to connect at -84. This would be one that we'd want to look into. Why is it allowing that? Again, we can spend a lot of time on this table, but we won't, we'll keep going just for the sake of time. Now the RF profiles, the same thing. We can click into any one of these. We can quickly now see how many radios or slots are using this particular profile. So if we go to the one that has 170, which is this NYC-VoIP, we click it, and now we get the settings of that particular RF profile. So I promised that I would come back to this EchoHow file. So here we have the ability to upload an EchoHow file, which we've already done in this case, and then download the modified EchoHow file. Let's see what that looks like. So here we have the original EchoHow file, and we have a number of APs. It's very useful. In this particular case, the client was kind enough to have AeroNet extensions enabled. So we were able to get the names of all the APs as the surveyor walked around the site. But as you know, more and more sites are not doing that, and more are using Aruba or other technologies that don't even have that capability. So we are now able to download a modified version of EchoHow. Notice this one says GCA for the Gyver controller analysis, and it will bring in the names automatically using BSSID to link them all up, but it will also add tags. So if I click this 15 tags, you can actually see the number of interferers on the 2.4 gig radio, number of interferers on the 5 gig radio, what the model is, how the power was set by, what RF profile it's using, whether the radios, the states are up or down, and what the power level is of the actual AP. All of this was inserted by the Gyver controller analysis tool. What is also really nice is now, because these models are here, for instance, any of this is searchable. So if I search for 3802, I can now see, let me try that again. I can now see all access points that are 3802s in this environment because it's searching by that tag. So very useful functions that this gives us. Now those same types of things with the EchoHow ability to modify those files, those are also present in the screen that we just showed you before. The ability to link that to Aruba, to Meraki, and others will be coming as we bring more and more on board. In addition, the analysis will work with either type of wireless LAN controller, whether it's running AirOS or iOS XE, whatever it is, we can bring that in, and very soon we will be supporting Aruba as well. So hopefully you can see why we're able to get through a controller or a troubleshooting engagement much faster than the others, but more importantly, we can get very deep into the problem while others are just still trying to line up APs with identification. We're already there. We see what the controller sees, and linking that with EchoHow gives us the ability to now really clearly see what's going on. So hopefully that gives you a nice overview of the Gyver controller analysis tool and some of the things that we have in store for it coming up as well.